Yes, sir.
So explain to my audience what's the Dossier and why did you do it?
Sure. So the reason why I did the dossier is really simple. Um, at the time when I started to write it, what I felt was that there was so many Big and Pac documentaries, there were so many books, there were so many articles, there's so many YouTube videos that I didn't have any interest in telling those stories because I just felt there was no new information. And I was hired by Fox to do a television show called Who Shot Big and Pac that Ice-T hosted with Soledad O'Brien.
Mhm.
And as a part of that show and as a producer, I was given many tools. I was given private investigators. I was given lawyers that I could use to find information. And I realized that there was one FBI agent who had never spoken. He had never really been mentioned outside of a few pieces of information I saw in documents. And I also knew that he was still at the FBI at the time that I was doing this show. And I never thought in a million years that Phil Carson, as a working FBI agent, would ever speak to me in a million years. And I had, through the lawyers and the private investigator, I had a number, I had an email address. I sent a blind email that literally said in the email, I know you probably won't respond to this. I know you probably won't speak to me, but I know you worked on this case. Here's my number. And I got a phone call. And if you listen to the podcast, in that very first phone call, and I'll say this now, I recorded that because I didn't think I would ever speak to Phil Carson ever again, right? So here I am, because I'm a little bit crazy, recording an FBI agent as he's calling me because I just wanted to get whatever he was going to say and have it in case I never spoke to him again. And what he said to me is basically, it's weird you contacted me because I'm a few months out from retiring, and man, do I have a story. And I knew at that point that there was a story there. I didn't know what it was, but I had an assumption, right, that this is the FBI. So when you talk about the FBI, you talk about money, you talk about time, you talk about the ability to basically do anything they want in an investigation, more so than the LAPD or anybody for that matter, right? And what I did is I set a meeting with Phil and I sat down with him, and the story that he started to tell me really shocked me, you know? And it shocked me for two reasons. One, this guy had never said a word to anybody. And secondarily to that, I also knew that this was something new and different. This was not, the same characters. This wasn't the same information Randall Sullivan had. This was not Greg Kading's narrative. This was something that was completely different. And so the thinking is I wanted to tell Phil's story. Now, in the course of telling Phil's story, I was brought all of this other stuff, you know. I was brought documents that no one else has. I was brought all of the documents from the civil trial where Miss Wallace sued the city of Los Angeles, and there's discovery material, right? Which is very important here. Now, mind you, these documents, no one has these documents. The city of Los Angeles has them, right? Miss Wallace and her attorneys have them, and I have them, okay? Because they're under federal seal, which means that I'm not supposed to have them, but I do. And I have them because Sergio Robledo, who worked for the Wallace family, gave me these documents. So now I have Phil Carson who's telling me A, B, C, and D. And now I have these documents that I'm starting to get from other sources, and I'm seeing a completely different story. And that's really what the dossier is. It's a story, an alternative history around the murder of Biggie based on Phil Carson and these documents that I will say no one else has.
Can those documents ever be unsealed?
So, as far as them being unsealed, I don't have that information, but I will tell you on October 23rd, when I release season 2 of the dossier, I will be releasing all of the documents I've ever collected on the Biggie Smalls investigation to the public and to other journalists for them to completely see all of the evidence that exists inside of the LAPD, to see all of the evidence that existed in Phil Carson's investigation, and to really see the complete picture and story of this massive cover up, right? And my hope is that other journalists or other people who are interested in this, or people like yourself who have these amazing platforms, can take these documents and start to do more work around this. And I think that's important because
Real quick,
always
what's the date again? That it
October 23rd, which is that Monday, I'm releasing episode 1 and 2 of the dossier season 2, and I'll be releasing on a website all of these documents that I've acquired over the last 5 years to the general public. The sealed documents, the documents inside the LAPD, the documents that were in the FBI, unredacted. Okay. I know there's been some serious, documents, or there was some documents that are floating around. A lot of those are redacted. My documents will be unredacted. Outside of, I did decide to maybe there's a few people in there that I felt were for lack of a better word, citizens that provided information that don't deserve to be noticed, in a sense, right? And that's really, I'd say, only 3 or 4. The rest will be unredacted. So you'll see names, you'll see who was talking, who wasn't talking. You'll see the evidence that was there. You'll see the narrative of Phil's case. You'll see the documents that were handed over to the legal team of the Wallace family, because that is a lot of important information if you want to tell this story, So the purpose of that is, I know there are many people that consistently decide to go out into forums and online and just lie. And I think the usual suspects.
yeah.
And
Oh, we know Kaiser Soze over here.
yeah. And so I just want people to see this, because I don't need to go on any platforms. I just need people to read the documents. And I also need people to just listen to Phil Carson, because there's something important about Phil that I want to say, that it took me 5 years to realize. And I'll tell this to you is, when you have law enforcement, whoever it is, someone like a Kading, someone like a Russ Poole, name the names. I don't care. Any law enforcement guy that decides, hey, I want to write a book. I want to do a movie. I want to monetize my story, right? What I realized about Phil Carson is 2 things. As a journalist, you're always trying to look at somebody and be like, what's this guy's angle? Does he have an axe to grind? Was he released from the FBI because he was a disgruntled employee? Did he have problems with people that that, you know, worked at the FBI and he's trying to get revenge, right? All those things go through your mind and you're kind of trying to figure that shit out. What I know now for a fact about Phil Carson is he does not say one thing in a public setting that he doesn't know 100% he can prove true. And secondarily to that, there is nothing that man says that doesn't exist inside of his investigation. And if he doesn't say it, he's not saying it because he believes ultimately at a certain point that FBI will come back around to this case and he does not want anything to taint that investigation, you know? So Phil is hands down one of the most credible people I've ever met in law enforcement in my whole career. And I stand by everything he says 100%, right? So to give you an example, we can go right there